Hello everyone! This is a disclaimer to remind you that we are not medical professionals, and thus anything said in this episode comes purely from personal experience, so therefore should not be treated as scientific fact. If you ever have any concerns, please get in touch with a medical professional. Thank you very much and enjoy the episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of Falling Upwards. It's sunny outside. We were trying to see if we could cultivate a more chill, calm vibe, but now I feel like I don't know, is this how cult leaders speak? I feel like this is slightly... Maddie, come in. Save me from this nonsense.
No, I was vibing with it.
Oh, were you actually? No, but you know, sometimes when you hear people and they're like,
Hello.
Breathe in and out. Align your attitude with the rays of Pluto, you know, stuff like that.
Oh my word.
And it's kind
I
of
would
like
listen to like an ASMR of you speaking. That was really relaxing.
I've had people say that to me before. Is this what I need to do now? Just read random excerpts from books.
Genuinely, you could be a convincing cult leader, for sure.
Oh God.
Got the charisma.
Oh no.
Got the mellifluous voice.
No.
I'm feeling very chill right now.
No. We do have a lovely, equally spoken guest that is on the lawn today with a very beautiful voice. So we are cultivating a calm, chill, beautiful episode for you today.
Woo.
And, you know, put this on maybe when you're about to take a bath, when you're about to go to sleep, maybe not when you're driving. But
yeah,
when you want some chill vibes, this is the episode for you today. And you'll hear some beautiful, wonderful things, I can guarantee it.
grab a smoothie, sit down, close your eyes, and enjoy the vibes.
Indeed. And the wonderful Sandhya Suri will very soon be telling you amazing, incredible things. But before that, of course, we must go to Mad News. Maddie, what have you got?
So, in more exciting news than the tone of my voice, me and Emma have been to some really cool concerts recently. Because, you know, when I shot ATs, which was like super cool, I made a big deal out of it. And with like little expectancy that this would happen, I actually managed to shoot the incredible Esper this year as well, like a couple of weeks back, and genuinely that was like just as cool, honestly. Like it's such a good group. And recently I've been so much more obsessed with girl groups, and I do think Esper has been the sort of trigger for that.
Nice.
It's just good, you know, and it feels less like female music is about being an attraction to men, you know. It feels more like it's for women these days, and there's some like genuinely good stuff out there. Like I've been listening to Le Seraphim's latest release and their song Ash. I'm obsessed with it. I've been listening to that.
Best one on the album. Oh my God.
It is, right?
It's so good.
And I also really like some of the stuff that the Blackpink girls have been releasing. Like I love Chill by Lisa. I don't know if you like that one, but I really like that song. But anyway, the concert itself was incredible. It was sold out, I believe. And the girls were just so stunning and so flawless in their performing. And I don't know how one can do that with your voice. But there you go. That's what they've been trained for.
Oh. As Maddie wants to ensure that I mention, and I did want to mention, but also I feel like my brain has the pace of a snail today. Last week, I caught the wonderful Alien Blaze in concert. You may remember she joined us on the lawn for a full episode for her first ever headline show, which was amazing. It was so good. Both her openers were really good. There was Leah Rai, and I hope I've said that right, and Chaidura, both incredible. Leah Rai, very soulful, kind of alternative acoustic vibe. And then there was Chaidura, who, when I was attending the concert, I'd been up for hours and hours. I think I was on my last legs. And the level of energy from that set was so good. And there was a bit of screaming, which I'll be honest, just tapped into a part of my soul. It was incredible. So go check out both Leah Wright and Chidera. And then Alien Blades did her thing, and she went through her whole kind of musical journey. She went from start to end with all her acoustic stuff, all her electronic stuff. She brought out a guest as well. It was fantastic. It was very,
Oh,
very, very good. And
that is fab.
yeah, and she had a great response from the crowd. And oh my gosh, she also, we know that she has been a big fan of encouraging the narrative that girls can be great instrumentalists and that girls can play the guitar. And she gifted a pink guitar to one girl in the crowd,
Oh my word!
which was amazing.
That is
It
so
was
kind.
amazing. And that girl was
Oh,
so emotional. And it even came with a little bag that she could take it home with in afterwards. And I was like, that's awesome.
that is genuinely so cool of her.
Practicing what she preaches, isn't it? Very cool. Maddie has kindly allowed me to contribute something else into Mad News
Woo.
today.
Oh, should I announce you?
Oh yeah,
I'm
go for it.
now handing over to reporter Kwan with this week's breaking news. I don't know. Take it away.
I found out that I thought, okay, I thought it was common knowledge that everybody understood that when women took various forms of contraception, whatever it is you take, whether it's a pill, whether it's an implant, IUD, whatever, that had hormones in that affected women's moods and women's, like, aside from like helping to stop people getting pregnant, I thought people understood that those hormones would like affect women's moods, and sometimes it can take months, if not, even longer to adjust, and it can really mess women up. And that's why sometimes you've got to trial different types of things. I thought everybody knew that. And it was brought to my attention of late that not all guys know that.
And that's crazy because how do they expect it to actually be working? Like, of course, it has to be via hormones.
I think it's like they understood that there were things in the contraception that made it work, and hormonal things in the contraception that made it work. But when I was saying, sometimes for women, it can severely increase their depression, it can severely increase their anxiety, it can affect their periods. They were like, really? I was like, yeah, like sometimes if you're already on certain medications and then you take it, it can be quite harmful to you mentally. And that's why women, it's like rolling the dice. I think every woman that's had to like look up contraception has had to really do a lot of research and look for people's reviews. And then it's still like a roll of the dice, whether you're lucky that it does or doesn't impact your body severely. And they like the idea that it could be that severe was very surprising to them. I think they thought that, okay, the hormones like work and stop the pregnancies, but I don't think they understood how terrible it can be. I guess.
I have a personal story about this, and it really does make me sad for girls whenever I think about it, really, because I went on Brigavidon. I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's how I say it based on how it's spelled. But I was put on that when I was like 17 or something, because I just, wanted help with my periods. They were just very painful and whatever. But what no one prepared me for was the fact that it would affect me so severely. Like, I had never been depressed before. I didn't know what that felt like. I had anxiety all my life, but I never had depression. And I tasted it for the first time because of Rigavidon. And I took a big spoonful. It was not a tongue dip, it was a massive.
Oh my
like
gosh.
that was the spark for my like huge mental health decline around that age period. And like there's been significant things that have happened in my life, directly because of that. And it makes me sad and also a little bit angry for all just women and girls because, they give this one out because it's like the cheapest one
Mm,
to produce,
mm,
right?
mm.
But they don't really drive the point home that this most likely will mess you up
Yeah.
mentally. They say,
Mm,
in all the fine print, it says, oh, this is a side effect that can happen. But what they don't
mm.
tell you is it's probably going to happen. The chances are so high. Um,
Yeah.
and there's so much better medication out there that they don't put you on first because it's just cheaper. And it's not good for you. It's really, really harmful. And it makes me sad also to hear that like people don't know about this, the
Yeah.
effects that it has.
Yeah. I don't think it's spoken about enough how severe those impact. I think people think, oh, maybe women or girls are just a bit uncomfortable for a bit. But actually, like if you're taking the implant or if you're taking an IUD, you still are going through a procedure to have something put in you, right?
Mm,
That it's not like the world's most severe operation, but it's still a procedure. You're still having something inserted in you. If you're taking a pill, it's still on you, that burden to take that pill every single day, to cross your fingers that what happened to you, for example, doesn't happen to you. Maybe you're lucky with this pill, or maybe you're unlucky. Okay, I don't get depression, but suddenly I'm getting super severe acne that I never had before. And now
mm,
that's messed up my skin, which is still going to affect me mentally. I don't think it's talked about enough how difficult these consequences and these burdens in the short term and in the long term are. So when guys get offended about having to be responsible to a certain extent for contraception, it's like, if we want to try and be fair and accessible for everybody, it should be like, at the end of the day, if you want to not get pregnant, like, the only way to try and safeguard that as much as possible is through what you do,
mm.
because whether or not the other person has done it properly, like, maybe if you're in a loving relationship, you can trust that person. If you're not, it's still a gamble. Like, I don't know whether some people understand that, like, it's good for everybody if we have as many different options for people to safely feel like they are in control of their reproductive health.
Mm.
Like, there's no need to get offended about being told, hey, do you care about contraception? Because at the end of the day, say
Yeah.
if you're with your partner and your partner's on the pill, and say like what happened to you, she gets incredibly depressed, it really affects her, like, that's still your problem because she's your partner. That is still your problem.
Mm.
Just because you're not taking that pill, that is still, like, if you care about her, that is still your problem. But she's taken that pill in a way to protect both herself and you. Like, that is still an issue that you have to deal with.
Mm.
People get so, like, angry and upset about it, but we've reached this really great point in history where, like, we're trying to find means every single day to make reproductive health better for people, but it's only going to get better if we know everything that's going on. Like, how can we fix
Yeah.
the amounts of depression and anxiety that come with people that are taking certain types of contraceptives if we never talk about it? If we never talk about how severe it is, then how is that going to get better?
Education doesn't care about women enough, really. I mean, there's parts of the world where people are deprived of that, and then there's parts of the world where they claim that they're so developed, yet they don't provide education enough about what happens with half of the population.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it causes things like this to happen.
Yeah. I think that's what surprised me about this, because, like, you and I are both lucky where we live in a country where there's a fairly robust and regulated education system. I don't know about you, but, like, at school for me, at school, which was an all girls school, we did have classes about reproductive health, which was
Mm.
great. But, both guys that I spoke to, which was why I was like, oh my God, let's mention this in Mad News. They've both had a decent education. I think they're both well read. And yet they had never been told kind of how severe that this could be.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, actually, if we as a society were looking out for everybody, I know not everyone cares about that, but if we want to look out for as many people as possible, we got to know the stuff that happens to as many people as possible.
You know what? Okay, this one's kind of funny, but also sort of infuriatingly funny. But I've heard on social media there was this lad that I mean there must be a handful of them that think this way, but I just saw this one example. And this lad was asking, he was sort of calling girls gross for like having to wear period pads or like anything like that because it's like, why can't you just hold it in? Like he thought that you could just hold it in like how you hold in urine or something.
Oh my God.
That's so funny. I'm sorry, but you can't. It just comes out. I don't know if this is news to anyone, but there are
Oh
no
my God.
muscles to stop that.
It
Just
does just come
flows.
out.
That's
Sorry.
why we need the stuff.
Sorry, everyone. Oh my God. But again, that's like, how do you not? It's the human body. Like, it's
Mm,
not that we would know every little thing about every single muscle and bone and everything, but this is something that happens on the regular all the time. You can buy products for it in the supermarket. Like, it's a common thing. Why
yeah.
would you not? Like, don't.
Like
Huh?
I had to see all these diagrams of like men's genitalia in school. I learned that I came from like a little tadpole, you know? So why does it feel like boys don't? I don't know. I don't know.
Things are better when people are
Learn.
able to learn and understand things. Why keep people in
Learn.
the dark about things? Don't keep people in the dark about things.
You know what learn rhymes with? Earn. Okay? So just think about that. If you're learning, you're earning. Think about what you can gain from it if you must.
Can we put that on a t-shirt?
Yeah, let's do it.
That was amazing. On the lawn today, we have talked at length about how incredible the new film Santosh is. And this week on the lawn, we have the fabulous director Sandhya Suri, who directed the film, chatting to us. So please enjoy, listen to her beautiful dulcet tones as she talks about her process with the film.
I'm excited for this.
Hi, Sandhya. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Congratulations on honestly such a stunning movie. I've said to many people, I'm on record as saying that it's one of my best favorite films of past years. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can I can't put my video on. We're not recording, are we? Just to say hello to you and be like a human being. Should I do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It
You
won't
won't
be
use a
used.
video. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no, no.
Wonderful. Oh my God, I can see why. Oh God, that's kind of scary. Okay, fine. No worries.
But yes, congratulations. What's it been like seeing the response to the movie, in the UK, but also in India and around the world?
Well, we haven't released in India yet, but in
Mm.
all the other places we have released, and it has been really, really fantastic. And we're releasing on Friday in the UK, so that's sort of extra special because it's home turf.
How did the idea for the film come to you? I know that it's been roughly in development since 2016. Is that right?
Yeah.
How and why did it take so long to gestate?
Well, 2016 was actually writing the script, but the idea was even there before that. I actually went to the lab, Sundance lab with it in 2016, but it actually started as, as a documentary. I wanted to make something about violence against women, and I was in
Mm,
India, working and researching with NGOs dealing with these issues. But
mm,
I was finding it hard to make it work as a doc because it was really difficult to just point the camera at the violence and show it.
mm,
And I felt I wasn't able to get inside it or dissect it or ask questions about it.
mhm,
And I felt that I had to sort of hang that project up and wait. And
mm,
then a few years later, which was actually in 2012,
mm,
I saw a photograph or maybe it was 2013, yeah, coming out of the horrible gang rape case on the bus in Delhi, the Nirbhaya case. And I saw a photograph of a female cop in India facing female protesters, very angry.
Mm.
And she had a very interesting expression on her face. And I just knew that it was about her I was making the film. And that started a whole journey into fiction and all sorts of things. Yeah.
I didn't realize this was inspired by a real person.
Me neither. Incredible, isn't it?
And the idea came like from before 2012. That's 13 years. That's crazy. Wow. So it was really important for her to make this. But I love that it was based on real life, because sometimes the best stories are just what is true, what is out there, you know?
It intersected somewhat with your work in the field that came out in 2018. How did both pieces of work play off each other, or did they just not at all?
Well, I'd already written the script when I went to make The Field.
Right.
And I had, everyone was saying, actually, you could just go and make the feature because the funding was sort of almost there. And I
Mm.
said, no, I have no idea whether I can make a film, a fiction film, or whether, I know nothing. So I need to try some stuff out. And again, I didn't necessarily take the most savvy route, which may have been to make a proof of concept of
Right.
the long, because I didn't feel that there was anything that I could take out of there that worked in the short form. I love
Mm.
short form, I love short stories, and I'd written this thing, The Field, and I thought it was very good in the form for a short. Like I
Right.
really thought it worked as a short form. So then I just took the time out and went and tried to learn a little bit about that and shot a film at 50 degrees in Haryana
Mm.
in India and I just said I will never shoot at 50 degrees again. So this time I shot at like 40 or 45 instead.
You mentioned thinking about it from a documentary perspective, and something I even said to Shahana is that when you watch it, it feels so true to life that it almost does feel like a documentary. And I think the fact that, well, both with Santosh and with The Field, there is that sense that you're allowing these women to be and to be present, and you can see that in the way that you set up the shots and the space that allows their reactions to actually live. How much of that is influenced by your documentary filmmaking, and how much of that has just come to you as you've gone?
Well, I think the documentary is always an interesting starting point for me, and it's a
Mm.
starting point in both films. So, this has a documentary feel, but what's interesting about Santosh is that like it's a thriller with a documentary
Right.
feel. And I'm
Mm.
happy to lean into the genre at certain points in the film or like in the field to elevate into a very
Mm.
different world.
Mm.
For one strand of that story. So for me, it's a starting point, and most of it is not about sometimes when fiction wants to appropriate documentary, it goes with a shaky camera or something
Right.
like that. But for documentary makers who are always trying to hold the camera still, basically, we don't tend to do that. And I think for me, it's all about research and details and
Mm.
levels of detail. And just, having a good bullshit detector about what feels true and what doesn't feel true. That's kind of how I respond on set to most things,
Mm.
if it feels true or not.
That's an incredible term. She sounds fab.
Yeah.
I mean, she sounds fab and she sounds fab. Your advertising about her accent, the way she speaks,
Yeah.
was spot on.
Right. So calming.
Mm. It's fun that she mentions that it's like a documentary, but it's sort of a thriller, fake documentary almost, kind of, because isn't life like one big thriller right now?
No.
Like if you're gonna if you're gonna make something as realistic as possible, it's probably gonna come under the genre thriller. I think we're all on our toes at the moment.
No, I want a calm slice of life 20-minute anime, please.
We don't live in an anime,
That's all I want. No.
unfortunately. You know what makes me so sad is how
What?
anime food always makes food look more appetizing than it really is.
Yep. Yep.
Like, nothing makes me want to eat
Yep.
eggs more than like Howl's Moving Castle. You know? You know the egg scene, like the fry up scene?
Yeah.
And then I eat them and it's just like, well, that was fine.
Total letdown.
But it's cinema magic.
It comes across very beautifully in, I would actually say probably the most harrowing scenes, some of the most harrowing, some of the most difficult scenes in the film, where something that I found so interesting about it was, given the subject matter, you do treat it with such delicate empathy. It is so faceted in the way that we see Santosh react to these things. How important was that to you to make it a film where, I think there are moments where you do see Santosh and you go, oh, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but also, yeah, I totally understand that. How important was it to show all of those, the dark and the light of all of it, I suppose?
Well, it's always about that for me. It's always about, I think it's been interesting because some of the responses I've had, especially from women about the film, has been that
Mm,
it's incredibly hard and also
yes.
soft.
Yes.
And that's like such a compliment for me because it's really what I want to do is to always keep humanity and empathy for
Mm,
everybody in the film. Not to ever do anything to shock for the sake of it, but
mm,
to try to be true, and for us to be able to watch a character and not judge them, but be with them. And if you've set them in a very complex moral playground,
mm,
which is where Santosh finds herself as from the first scene that she's at the police, then I think we've understood and we've sort of immersed ourselves in that world well enough to understand what goes in that world.
mm,
So when she does behave in a way which feels difficult, maybe there is some understanding from the viewer's perspective as well.
mm.
Wow. I really respect Sandy for that. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved what she said about not doing things just for shock because I feel like some film, not all film, but some film has just been reduced to the this just mere quality of just I don't even want to use the word quality, but like it's just about a really 2D perspective and it's about like there's one feeling and then there's one feeling and whatever and there's not much
Mm,
depth to it, but I love that she sees it as important to not have this perfect hero, this person that we're gonna
mm,
approve of everything they do because that's not what life is like. And I think not me going into another society tangent, but unlike social media at the moment with the state of it, um, you and I have like witnessed the start of this like a few years ago, how people's reactions to others has
mm,
become much more visceral and much more judgmental.
mm,
And
mm,
one like small thing, I think, becomes blown way out of proportion, and people decide that they
mm,
absolutely hate someone for like a small mistake or just one thing they did, and they are absolutely banned from any sort of redemption for that and whatever. And what I respect is directors and just anyone in general that still sees that life is not like that. People are complex.
no.
Good
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
do make mistakes. They do bad things from time to time, unfortunately. And
Mm,
it's not as simple as just like good and bad as well. Um, so
mm,
I really respect that she puts that out there, just bare for people to
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable because it's easy to just hate on a villain and to root for a perfect hero. It's harder to
Mm.
empathize with people that do crap sometimes.
Well, what you said about shock
Mm,
value feels so real right now, especially with social media and the idea that anything can, anything you can't predict can make you famous. That's this whole thing with social media, right? You say a quote that becomes a big thing, you do something that shocks people, and suddenly it goes viral. And to a certain extent, with social media, you can kind of understand why, with the medium and with how people utilize it. But it is a shame when you see that move over to film and TV, because that's where we should be able to like just state ideas and think about how we connect to characters. And there are moments when shocking people works, but I guess what you're saying about like people shocking for the sake of shocking
It's just
people.
cheap.
Like people do that with, I feel like people do that with both nudity and violence a lot in film, right? Where did the violence have to be that gratuitous? Did the sex scene or the nude scene have to be that gratuitous? It's not that violence and nudity and sex doesn't have a narrative role to play, but I think audiences are getting more and more savvy as to, well, why did you have to do it like that?
And it gets so celebrated at like award shows and things. Oh, they dared to do all this, and isn't that so great? And it was just shock, and that's it. And they're just making up this sort of profound reason as to why they chose to do that. But really, it was just a cheap way of getting more people to view it, really, and talk about it.
Yeah, like awe and shock isn't the same thing, you know? Like awe can be so indicative of like something incredible being done with an art form, whether that's in a music video or in whatever medium. Like the things that are awe-inspiring that make us go, wow, that was amazing what they did. It almost feels like we've mistaken awe for shock. Like I've seen horror movies where I hate horror, by the way.
She does.
I can't. Like I won't see for days if I watch a horror film. But there are moments where you're like, wow, like what they've managed to do, even though I now never want to leave my house again, was amazing. But that's not because it was shocking. Like I might have jumped and screamed a lot, but the awe of what that's generated, that's what impresses people. Like when you think about classic movies that have done well, or even lately, like songs that have done really well, it's because like how that's inspired people has been really cool. That is not the same thing as shocking people. Making people go wow is not the same as shocking people.
You know what film I watched? You're gonna be surprised at this. For the first time recently,
okay,
was the Grand Budapest Hotel, because ever since like the trailer first came out, I wanted to see it just because of how stunning it looked. You know, Wes Anderson is a genius. But I just never got around to watching it. But I watched it recently, and it does have like some crudeness in it, but it's like it's not done in a cheap way. Wherever it's done, like when Ralph Fiennes, if he does suddenly say like a curse word or like reference something, you know, anything of that type, it's sort of wrapped up so well that everything else that's going on, that like you excuse it, because it's like comedy done right. It's just the right amount, and it's not just for the shock of it. Like I just really respected it as someone that reviews films and everything. So that's an example of that done right.
If I can touch on Santosh and Sharma and their relationship in the movie, which is it's just delicious to watch and to see it evolve. How did inspiration for their relationship start off, and how did that develop over time?
Well, I always knew I wanted to make a mentor-mentee relationship in a film. I wanted to do that, and I thought, well, okay, let's have it between women. Um, and I mean, one thing I knew is that Sharma was probably the first woman in Santosh's life to ever really praise her for being smart and bright, and encourage her and say, you can absolutely do this, you've got this. I thought that's a very important thing, to have a woman like that come into her life at this stage of her life, at this particular moment. And but I didn't want to make anything too happy clappy in terms of female solidarity either, because it felt too easy. You know, I'm always cautious not to like bore myself when I'm writing a script or an idea, you know, look at the ladies against the men, because I mean, the whole tapestry of the film is so complex that if I make that so simple, it doesn't feel correct, it doesn't fit. So I just wanted to show the lights and the darks of that. And I think that Sharma as a character herself sort of is that way, because she's kind of unknowable, and we're not entirely sure what she believes in the film, even despite, you know, even when she expresses them directly, whether she believes her own rhetoric or not is also a question. So she's kind of unknowable. And I thought, well, let's discover her through Santosh's eyes and see what we think.
Beautiful. Uh, I've asked Shahana a little bit about this already, but how then did that evolve into the process of finding both actors that fit those roles well?
Well, yeah, I knew with Shahana when I met her at the casting, which was quite late in the process, actually. I knew that um, I wanted, the Santosh I'd written was never sort of very innocent. She was never
Mm,
like that. She was a woman who had a certain intelligence and survival to her, and also had a little ambition. She's
mm,
independent thinking. She married for love. So I was just curious about making sure that I felt that ambition and that slight resistance to tradition
mm,
in her, but not in an not in an overt, too much way, Um, so I wanted to set that up lightly. And then Sharma, I just wanted her to not be an archetype of a matriarch. I
right.
wanted her to feel human and
Mm,
vulnerable and to feel like an ordinary woman who
mm,
would worked in that position.
mm.
And then I did a character test, a chemistry test, sorry, with both of them. And I was just, I did that silent sort of movement session with them both. And I was, yeah, absolutely sure that they were the right couple.
Oh, amazing. I want to say surprised, but also not surprised to find out that this was the first Hindi language submission that had ever been made by the UK to the Oscars, which, I mean, it feels like it's about time almost. Did you see that coming? What did that feel like to know that it was your movie being chosen?
Oh, well, so great, right? So great because everything depends about what's on that year and what
Mm,
else is out there. That determines sort of the fate of your film, really. Um,
mm.
so I felt very, very lucky that we were there, that I wasn't the same year as Zone of Interest, for example. That we'd come out in this year and that we'd been selected, and it meant a lot that it's a Hindi film as well.
Mm,
For Britain to put that forward. I also felt I had India rooting for me and England
nice,
rooting for me as well.
nice, nice.
Woo!
Amazing, isn't it?
Woo! Sorry, I don't have any comments to make. I just think that's awesome. Woo!
I was genuinely surprised it was the first time that
I
we
know.
that the UK had ever sent a Hindi language film because we'd sent other films of different languages.
It's like cool, but also about time.
I was very surprised.
Because especially like Indian culture is such a big part of the UK, right? So
Yeah.
about time. About time.
How much do you feel that your own upbringing in England has influenced, I suppose, even picking Santosh as a subject matter, how it's maybe giving you license or maybe not to tell the stories that you want to tell?
I mean, I suppose it's just about a drive to have a deeper relationship to India, and that
Mm.
drive comes from not being in India probably.
All
And
right.
my father having always had such a deep relationship and a yearning and a love for his motherland that I grew up with very, very strongly. So for me, going back to India a lot,
Mm,
exploring with my camera, using filmmaking as a way to go deeper in my relationship
mm,
and learn things and yeah, explore is I think will always be important to me.
mm. Do you see yourself going back to documentary making anytime soon, or do you think scripted is a way forward for you now?
I mean, I think as someone, because archive is my huge love, and that's what, where I started. If someone were to come to me with some like fantastic archive and say, "Do you want to make a feature doc out of this archive?"
Mm,
Then I would be very excited because archive is what I love. But
mm,
I've also, with this film, really enjoyed that vision, the vision of a fiction filmmaker and all the different departments and all the oversight over everything of every
mm,
aspect of that story in all its different forms and collaborating and with
mm.
such brilliant people and using their expertise. And that's been a joy because doc making can sometimes be a little lonely.
When I've been talking to other people about the film, something that has struck them and that I've conveyed as well is how it really sheds light on a reality that exists for a lot of Indian women and by extension a lot of South Asian women, where obviously sometimes in mass media, they can be portrayed as quite stereotypical or quite, never multifaceted. How much do you think that has changed as a creator yourself? How much do you think that has changed over the years for Indian women in mainstream media?
I don't know if I consume enough mainstream mini media to answer that, to be honest. I live like a slightly hermited life.
Mm,
I do think that part of my motivations in making Santosh was, and also the field actually,
mm,
sometimes you look at a woman from South Asia
mm,
with a certain sort of sense of, oh dear, look, her situation's so terrible, she's a widow, like what's she gonna do? Or like, look at this agricultural laborer in the field, like life seems so impossible for her if you look at
mm,
it with a certain gaze. But
mm,
actually, having met so many women in so many situations in villages or towns without money, with
mm,
dire circumstances, actually, the level of negotiating obstacles, maneuvering intelligently, playing chess in
mm,
order to get the maximum for them and their families, and just the intelligence with which women survive and actually thrive, even in very difficult circumstances,
mm.
was part of the reason why I wanted to make the film and what formed Santosh.
Amazing. Well, if we go to younger Indian creators that are hoping to follow in your footsteps, is there any advice you'd give to them, or maybe advice that you'd also give to your younger self, knowing where you are now?
I don't know. I'm kind of broke, so I don't know. I feel like someone needs to give me some advice on how to do this a bit better. But creatively speaking, I would say that, I've been plodding for a very long time. I graduated film school a very long time ago.
Mm,
I think that if you feel confident in what you're doing and you have something to say, then that's a special thing. And you should just keep plodding and have some patience because this is like I said, a long way down the line that I'm here.
Plodding. Plodding is what it's all about.
I like that. It's a very comforting verb, isn't it? Like plodding. You know, um, you know Jigglypuff in Pokemon,
Yes.
and she's just puffy and lovable, and she kind of plods,
Hmm. Right.
and it just kind of makes you smile. She plods.
Did I tell you Ditto is my cursor on my computer?
Oh, Ditto's also a plodder,
I love Ditto.
a slidey plodder.
Yeah.
Plodding is what it's about.
Mm.
Like I feel like most people talk about it like climbing up a hill or up a mountain, which is, it's still quite daunting imagery, but actually plodding is quite nice.
Yeah.
It's very wholesome and calming and just like keep going, it's all okay.
I just have the image of like my grandpa when he'd climb up a mountain because we used to go to the Lake District a lot. He would always walk with his arms
Mm,
behind his back and like lean forward.
mm,
So to help myself up
mm,
hills, or mountains, but I don't walk up as many mountains as
mm,
I used to do as a kid. um, I would just like emulate my grandpa and I'll just plod and it becomes
mm.
easier. A metaphor
Plodding.
for life, if anything.
We just keep plodding. We do our best to plod.
You know, Sandhya, she seems like an example of a person who's using 100% of her brain.
Yep. I could never. Do you have any particular hopes personally for the kind of conversations or receptions that you hope Santosh will bring as it continues to roll out and be released in more territories?
What I think, what I think I'm happy about with this film is that if you go and see it in the cinema,
Mm,
you can sit and have a drink afterwards, and there is a lot to discuss about this film, whether you
mm,
agree, whether you argue with your friends or not.
mm,
I think it opens up so many conversations, and precisely what I wanted. I wanted a film that opened up conversations that.
Like Barbie. I just remember arguing with my sister's boyfriend about like the message of Barbie because
mm,
he was like, because we were talking about how much we liked it, and that one particular scene in it where she
mm,
talks about just the struggle of being a woman, like you have to be this, but also this, and no, because that scene was like stand out to me. And
mm.
he said he actually thinks it's a Meninism film. I was like, what? But he made some good points. There are some like arguments to be made about a good film.
left a lot to think about, or I don't whether you like it or don't like it, whether you agree with this or not agree with that. There's a lot to talk about, and for me, that's sort of the joy of cinema and international cinema in particular,
Mm.
that you can go and it can talk about some very, um, it's entertaining, but it's talking about some very strong things as well. And
Mm.
there's just, I'd love to see it in outreach and go to universities and
Mm.
and just be part of bigger conversations as well. But
I
mainly, I want people to be moved, and I hope that's what the film does.
I think it absolutely does, and I think talking to friends about it, I hope that it does get more people talking about these conversations. There are so many facets to it, not just with with the car system. Friends of mine that were like, I had no idea about certain elements that it brings. I definitely think you're going to achieve that.
Thank
Um,
you.
do you have a favorite failure from your own experiences?
I did once, I don't know, this is not great. I did once send some money back for a film that I got. So I got some funding for a film, and at some stage, it was a doc, and one of my characters went missing. There was about three women. One of them went missing, and they were going to let me keep the money, but I just didn't think I had a good film there anymore, so I gave the money back. And I'm still conflicted about whether that's the right thing to do or not, but I suppose you'd call that some sort of failure.
That was a very honorable thing to do. I don't think everybody would have done that.
Yes, I agree, past MA.
But you
Oh, I
kind of
don't
stuck to
know.
your
I don't
principles.
do stick to my principles. That I do. Hence the brokenness. There you go.
I agree.
But do you not think I saw, wasn't there this piece of news where I think Netflix had sent like 11 million or something for this director to make his movie, and then all he just spent it on was like sofas and cars?
For the movie or himself?
No, for himself.
That's illegal though.
They gave him like millions of, like, I guarantee no matter what money that she would have got for that movie, it wouldn't have been millions upon millions on millions, right? And I think anyone listening, please feel free to correct me and give us precise data. But I've seen this several times. I think it was Netflix or one of the streamers. They gave the director at least, it was something like 11 million, something million, which is a lot of money, and he just spent it on like stuff for himself. So she was very honest, man.
Yeah. And she, they said that she didn't have to give it back. And yet she felt like she had to in that moment.
She honestly could have just gone and made something totally naff just to say that she'd used the money, but she was like, no, like, this is what I said I'd made.
But she cares, man. Like, she really cares about making something good.
She didn't buy, I don't know, a sofa. I kept seeing sofas in the headline, that he'd like bought sofas and like cars and things.
Multiple sofas?
I'm not sure.
How many sofas can one buy with $11 million? How many sofas would one want with like unlimited funds? Surely maximum 3 if you've got a large living room.
Yeah, it's okay. So I found this. So it's director Carl Rinch. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Netflix wants 11 million back because he spent it on cars, bedding, and a $28,000 sofa. I did not know you could get sofas worth $28,000. So now I'm just like, I'm expecting this sofa to like give me massages and to have a fountain integrated or something. Like, why is a sofa that much money?
That's the cost of a Range Rover. Like, it better be able to drive you places. And on the other side of the spectrum.
So she was very, very, very honest.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, gambled the money on stock market, on crypto, bought a fleet of he's accused of using the money to buy a fleet of Rolls Royces, luxury items, plus antique furniture.
No, sir.
I'm sure lots of people soon are going to be enjoying Santosh even more than they are now. But do you have something that you particularly are enjoying in your life? Whether that's some media or just a hobby that you're liking very much?
Oh, something that I'm enjoying in my life. I've got a hanging chair, and I like to sit and I like to rock in there and sort of just look out the window, drink a cup of tea, and slow down a bit because it's been a busy year. Everything's been going on. So it has a little happy, cocoony place. I like that.
Wait, like, so you like attach it from the
Is
ceiling?
it like an egg?
Very good place for creativity. Very
And
good
it
place
just
for
dangles.
reading. Just dangles. It's not out of control. Yeah, you can watch films in it, you
Wow.
can read in it, you can look out the window.
So all of us just chilling on sofas up until this point we've not been doing it right. You've been doing it
I
right.
have no sofa. It's a bone of contention for people who want to come round to visit. I just have the one hanging chair and some cushions on the floor.
That's an interesting set. Is that just a space thing that you can't have the sofa? Or
I no, I've
you've
got it's a
never
big room.
vibed?
It's a big room. I'm not into sofas. I like floor living. There you go. I'm enjoying floor living
You know what?
and chair living, yeah, and
The
hanging chair living, yeah.
the people from Architectural Digest need to get you into
They
to
do. We
do a room.
need to branch out on these podcasts at some point.
Yes,
Yeah,
they need to do like from the director of Santosh, and you just
exactly.
design like
Yeah.
the kind of room that Santosh would want, but with a hanging chair, something like that.
And look who doesn't even need any sofas. Wow, that's just so telling. Is it like one of them egg ones?
That's what I thought in my head.
They stress me out though, because like, what if you want to lean back, but you're sort of like forced to have your head downwards? It stresses me out. For someone that's never sat in an egg chair, I stress way too much about it.
Yeah, I've sat in an egg chair once, and for me, like I feel like I'm a sofa person. I feel like that's what it taught me. But it
Yeah.
also felt quite like once I was in there, I felt like I was at the mercy of just all the forces around me. I wasn't grounded.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I get why people love it though. I get why it would be like quite vibey, but like there was a time where it was a room of hanging chairs, no context, and there were like little tables next to the hanging chairs, and every time I'd like reach out to the little table, like the chair would like wobble and zhuzh a bit, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is too much like energy for me.
That's making me think of Men in Black. Although those aren't hanging, those are like on the floor, aren't they?
Oh, like the spinny ones, yeah. But those are grounded, aren't they, innit? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are grounded
Still,
chairs.
it's not a very convenient chair.
No. But it's a good vibe. I get why she would love it. Like
Yeah.
swing. I do like a good swing.
How about a hammock?
No, those freak me out.
Why?
Because I move around a lot. You know, like I'm constantly I'm picking up books, I'm moving, I want to be able to, and then like I can just see myself flipping off. I know it already. I feel like if your thing
like a
is
leaf
that
blowing away in the wind.
Yeah, literally. Whereas if you're like, I'm just gonna lie down and just sleep, then I feel like that's different. But there have been times when I've been in a hammock and then I'm like, I am cocooned in this material, and I don't know if I feel too much like I'm in an amniotic sac right now.
Oh my god, weren't you like swallowed by a sofa at a festival?
Yep.
I remember seeing your story on Instagram progressing.
Yep.
And I was worried for you because
Yep.
you just disappeared inside that thing.
I'll be honest, there was a point at which I looked up and all I saw was sofa material.
That's crazy. How did it get to that point?
I don't know. It was a big, like, puffy sofa, and Maddie and I are of similar stature, for everyone listening, because obviously you can't see us. We're both quite slight of frame, but Maddie is taller, whereas I am smaller. Like, I can fit in a suitcase, for example. And it just ate me.
What if someone sat on it thinking no one was in there? You could have died.
It just ate me. I sat down and I was like, I don't know. What would you like to contribute to the exchange, Mads?
Oh, I'm gonna break the rules. I don't know what made me think of this. There was something earlier, and then I googled it, and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be my exchange. But I'm gonna exchange something that doesn't exist anymore, just to annoy people. So back in the day, in my high school iPad days, one of my favorite apps was this like game called Landsliders, and you had this little character that you'd slide around on the land, as you might have guessed. And I think sometimes you could be a bear or something, and they were just really cute. And you would collect coins, and there were trees and little bears and things. And yeah, you could be different animals, and it was just so chill and so fun. And oh wait, yeah, there were bears that chased you.
Oh.
Yeah, no, and I really miss that app so much because they discontinued it, and it's one that I just miss dearly.
Well, I'll offer an app also for my exchange. I've been playing Lively Island. and I think it's my life now.
And I've not heard of this.
Remember when I was like, I can't live without The Simpsons tapped out. I can't live without The Simpsons tapped out. Without The Simpsons tapped out, what meaning does my life have? And now this has taken up that hole in my heart.
But is it like Animal Crossing?
It's more like I feel like it's more like Neopets. It feels like a spiritual successor to Neopets.
I'm looking it up. That's really cute.
Love it. Love it. And you can like pick what pets you want, and you can give them potions to like evolve, but you don't have to fight. That you just like cultivate your little like living space, and you can decorate them with different sets like with Animal Crossing. It's just very wholesome. That's the kind of joy we need.
Just like our cute little things.
Well, if you had a kind of a sign-off message, any message that you like to give to listeners and readers, it can be genuinely whatever you would like it to be. We've had some silly ones.
I mean, apart from go watch my film, obviously.
Apart from go watch your film, yes. Do you have one you'd like to share?
Just to be tenacious. It really is. I know it's just because I haven't always been tenacious. I mean, I have and I haven't, but many times I would have thought about changing career. And I think that it is important to play the long game. That's my piece of advice, to play the long game.
Given what you've said about funding as well, and you've been very honest about, I think, with big projects, there's always that assumption that some studio from the sky just comes in and drops a bunch of money for the filmmakers to make what they want. How, especially with this cost of living crisis, how have you seen that impact your filmmaking and your ability to get funding for your own projects?
I mean, it was relatively easy with Santosh, to be honest.
Right.
It wasn't a big struggle with Santosh. I think that the bigger thing is how to live. This industry is suffering a lot. How can freelancers manage to actually continue? Because that's like one thing to do your own films. I don't expect. I suppose it's difficult to expect that to pay your bills at a certain level, maybe at a point, but then how to survive in between is the hard thing, and it's just hustling all the time still. It's very hard. It's very hard to keep hustling.
But stay tenacious, as you say.
Stay tenacious, keep hustling, make what you want to make, and play the long game.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a privilege. And again, thank you for such an incredible film.
Thank you very much.
No, yeah, it was deep. I think my sign-off message will be, if you wanted to catch my Esper photos, which I was very proud of, by the way, you can check them out at my Instagram, which is in the description of this episode. Thank you.
Don't be hungry. Eat and enjoy food. I don't know. I'm just having a very food-oriented day. And also I feel a bit peckish, so I was just like, don't be hungry.
Yeah.
Enjoy the food that you can have. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, It can just be a Kit Kat.
But manage your expectations, because it won't be as good as anime food makes it look.
Enjoy food, but not with anime food in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
there we go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to the wonderful Sandhya Suri for coming on the lawn. Santosh is out in UK cinemas right now. And as usual, and as always, thank you very much for joining us on another episode of Falling Upwards.
Bye.